Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Ihsan.
And I'm Erick Mertz.
And this is episode 91 of the podcast, and it's November 16th, 2022, as we record this. Today, we're talking about the nitty-gritty of self-publishing. We don't have any new patrons this week, but a big squeezy hug and thank you to our existing patrons for believing in us and in the podcast. For as low as $1 a month, you can get a shout out and a postcard. I'll talk about that in a minute. And you can make announcements for you on the podcast. At other tiers, the benefits increase: free books, accountability Zoom calls, scene analysis, mastermind calls, and even free retreat tickets. Become a patron of the arts at patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan.
I want to do a scene analysis for somebody.
Yeah? Okay.
I'd love to.
Cool.
So putting it out there.
I just did one for the Author Life community, the online community that I'm a part of. So yeah. I'm doing that with my book coaching clients too. What's that?
How did it go? How did the scene analysis go?
It's good. The way it works at the community that I'm in, many people show up and we all have read the scene, in advance, and the author actually has done a lot of the legwork and just said, this is where I think the conflict is, this is where I think the choice is, this is where I think the consequence is, this is what's going on in the scene. It's like book 2 and it's, after the characters learned of her father's death or something like that. So they just sort of set us in the place and then they mute. And then the rest of us kind of talk about, well, I don't think that's the conflict. I think this is the conflict. And, just sort of do that sort of thing. And then they come on at the end. So it's kind of a hot seat sort of setup, if that makes any sense.
I like that. It's odd. It sounds a lot like when I do an analysis of one of my own scenes. Like I read it, and then the voices in my head get to debate whether or not I'm actually accurate. And then I make the decision on how to rewrite it. That's what I'm doing right now.
Committee meeting.
Yeah. Can we get a committee meeting on this scene? Because I think the conflict is here. Rewriting is hard, and I'm in the midst of it. And that's like, yeah. So that scene analysis hits home right now.
Yeah. Okay. Any announcements or updates you want to?
Just rewriting book number 4, and that's been fun. It started out as a short story.
Can you say that with a little more inflection?
Well,
it was fun.
Well, look, come on. Like it started out as this, like I was going to be this little short book, and then I started looking at it, and then now it's like 70,000 words and sprawling, and all for the better. But it's still, every time I sit down and look at it, I just feel like if I keep looking at it, it's going to keep growing. It's like a child. Like every time you look at your kid, they're bigger, and this is like the same thing. So I have put a cap on it. I mean, all joking aside, but it's good. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the amount of work. So
you said you're at the rewrite stage. So you've already written it, and now you're going back through and on subsequent passes and adding more information, details, setting.
I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it at 30,000, 35,000 words. Thought it was going to be like a novella. And then as I went, here's something I have never really done. Instead of starting at the beginning, knowing what was wrong or knowing what I thought was wrong and rewriting, the first thing I did was I just read it. I took it, put it on my iPad, and I went to the cafe and I just read it like a book. And I thought, oh, okay, well, and then I started writing out scenes and chopping some scenes and replacing some scenes. And so now it's much longer.
That's how I edit the first pass.
Fine.
Just read it.
You read it first?
I read it first, and then I figure out like, oh, this is a spot where I need a better clarification on this matter, or what if I had a subplot here, or this subplot is totally annoying, so I'm taking it out, or something
or
like
what
that.
happened to that subplot?
Yeah, it started and then nothing ever happened with it. Yeah,
right. That happened in this book. There was like a little storyline I thought would just be a scene, and then I went and I read it. When I read it, I read the copy that had the comments from my writers group on it, and I like immediately the first thing they all grabbed onto was, why haven't I seen any more of this scene? It's what revising is. It's what rewriting is. It's you can't know the story until you really dig into it. So what about you?
Absolutely.
Reading
Well,
anything
I'm
good?
gonna I'm gonna not do my author update until the bulk of our talk, because we are talking about the nitty-gritty details of indie publishing, and that's where I'm at right now. So I'll just wait and talk about that later. But I do want to remind everyone that the Writer Craft Writing Retreat tickets are live. They're $900 for 3.5 days on the Mackenzie River, all lodging and food included. And patrons get discounts, and there's monthly payment options available. You can go to oh wow, let me start that part over again. ValerieIhsan.com/retreat for more information. And that's this summer. And
Summer.
let's
Already talking
so
about summer.
I know, well, because it's a
Got it.
financial investment, and I
Yep.
know that you can't just fork out $900 in
Right.
August. So if you do it now, then it's only like $85 a month or something like that if you're a
Right.
patron. So I am still reading Wabi Sabi, the Japanese wisdom for a perfectly imperfect life, because I said that I wanted to read nonfiction because I'd read a lot of fiction, but then sometimes you're just not in the mood for nonfiction. So I am also reading The Nesting by C.J. Cooke. And it is so creepy. I'm reading it really slow because I'm finding I can't read it at night because I actually have nightmares when I
Oh,
read this
wow.
book. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm determined to finish it because I love, I like her stuff. I've read other books by her, and but it's a creepy one. So if you're still in that like, gee, I'm sorry, Halloween is over mode, The Nesting by C.J. Cooke might be your cup of tea.
I'm always in that mode. I'm
Yeah.
always in that mode. So I'm gonna read it.
It's scary. It's atmospheric scary though. Like it's
Right.
just every time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Someone's watching you, but you don't know, type of feeling.
What are you reading?
I'm still reading Skippy Dies.
Okay.
It's really it's dense, it's about all sorts of odd topics, and there's a lot of immersion in like teenage life that it puts, like, there's a whole section in the book about a dance, and the whole story, I think I brought it, like, the whole story is about what happens
The
around Skippy's
fallout
death.
after his death. Yeah.
Yeah, what leads up to and what falls out after his death. And a lot of it is it's absurdist. There's a lot of absurd moments. There's a lot of really deep, crazy moments. And I have to sometimes read it and think, what if this is serious? Like, there's a character that's obsessed with physics. There's a character that's obsessed with flatulence. And they have these debates. And it's like, I read it and it's brilliant writing, but I'll sit there and think, am I supposed to take this seriously? So it's hard to read fast, which, now the person who recommended it to me read it in like 5 days, which I love him to death, but I hate him for it. So I wish I could read that. I wish I could read this that fast, but at least it's a thinker. It definitely puts me in the mode of like, just what am I supposed to take serious in the story and in the world, So some of it goes to that level. I'm also reading so I was reading the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. I read the first one. I'm reading the second one right now, Artificial Condition. It's just it's fiction. It's super light. And if you love science fiction, if that's your jam, that is a great series. Martha Wells is great. The character's fantastic. So, yeah.
Artificial Condition.
Artificial Condition. It's book 2 of the Murderbot series. I've never read a book 2 that so seamlessly picks up from book 1. It was as though it was like a record, just the song played and then it paused and then we're into the next one. It was
That's
so
cool.
beautifully done. If you want to know how to stitch together 2 stories, that's how you do it. Yeah.
All right.
The best
Well,
artificial intelligence character ever, too, if you like that. It's just,
okay.
It's really odd how, like, I gravitate toward this character's feelings and thoughts on things. So,
Well, I would like to get started talking about the nitty-gritty of self-publishing, because there
Let's
is
do it.
actually a lot of nitty-gritties.
It's a lot of nitty.
It's
Yeah,
a gritty
it's
business, you guys.
it is. It
So
is.
I put self-publishing in the title because that's more SEO friendly, I think, but I
True.
prefer using the term indie publishing because I don't do all this by myself. I don't know about you, but this is not self-publishing. I have lots of help in the process, and we can talk about that in a little bit.
I do too. Yeah, you can't do this all on your own. You would have to be wildly skilled and well funded in order to do this all on your own.
And yeah,
And
and have lots of time.
time to burn. So yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of money. So this is I'm doing a lot of
And I'm
this by
lacking in
myself.
skill. So right. Just kidding.
Well, I think the first thing that we could talk about is scheduling, actually.
Ooh, okay.
So when you are writing your book and you're coming to a close and you've finished it, and you've gone through a couple editing passes and you think, all right, this is great, it's ready for somebody else's eyes. That other person might have 2 or 3 clients already booked up. So it's
Right.
good to remember that, you want to book time with your editor ahead of time, maybe a couple of months, and just see, because they need lead time, because they've got other clients and they've got other work that's scheduled before you. So
Right.
that's one thing to think about. And other people that you would also schedule with would be like beta readers, or anybody that you want reading your book for any purpose, like a book blurber, or
ARC readers.
yeah, developmental editors, alpha readers, line editors. Yeah. So, and yeah, I guess that's all I want to say really about that.
Yeah, there's a lot we could probably talk forever just on that, but I think the key that you're hitting on, that is the main point, is you have to know that all of these steps are going to take time, and that you're not going to finish your book on March 1st and have it on April 1st, because there's a lot. Yeah, you could theoretically, but not to the quality that I think people who are trying to do this successful.
Right. And especially if you're having multiple people look at your book, so if you've got a developmental editor looking at it, or an alpha reader, like you just said, your friend can read a book in 5 days and that you hate him for that. So think about, if a person is going to read your novel,
Right.
with all the other stuff that's going on in their life, and then also write up some notes for you, or some sort of editorial letter, or if it's just a beta reader, like some notes in the margin or something. But, I like to give folks a month. So
Right.
if I know that I'm sending my book out to the line editor, or to the developmental editor, or to a list of friends that I know read in this genre, and I want their feedback before I send it to the editor, like each stage of that is going to take a month usually.
Yeah.
So you have to add that into your launch date dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Backdate it, like, okay, I want to launch by March 1st. All right, well, that means that for all of February, you're going to be doing all this nitty-gritty stuff. All of January, it's going to be at the line editor or the proofreader. And plus you've got to save. So I received my notes from my editor in mid-October, maybe late October, and I didn't get to even open it up and start looking at it because I was doing some other things until probably the beginnings-ish, towards the middle of November. So right. You've got to save time for yourself to like actually make the changes in your document too.
Right. And the steps when we're pulling in other readers, you have to understand that one editor is one thing, because you are scheduling that time with that person. They'll tell you, I can start on X date and I'll be done by X date. If you're doing things like beta readers and ARC readers, you're going with a group, and that group is by nature harder to corral than a single person. Mm-hmm. I have a group of stories that are out with beta readers right now, and that's great. There's like there's many of them. I'm waiting on a couple of them. How you have to ask yourself, how long do you wait? Like, do you hold up because you want to wait for 2 more people to get you their comments? Maybe, if you value those 2 people, or maybe you just look at it like, all right, cut your losses and move on. So I've been at it with the scheduling thing. I know we don't want to talk about this thing forever, but I've been optimistic and scheduled myself tight. I've gone too long. It's hard. It's hard to have a date in mind and then try to make everything fit. It's until you really get in a rhythm and have a group, have like a process. This can be the most difficult, frustrating thing.
Yeah. So
for
have
me,
some
at least.
compassion and it's good to have deadlines, and know that if you do have a date set aside with your editor and you don't make it in time, you don't hit that deadline because you're still trying to maybe make changes from your beta reader group or something like that, then you might lose that spot.
Right.
Or yeah, so that is stressful, and you do want to try to get it in, but you can also be communicative with your editor or with your beta group, hey, I'd really like this back in 30 days, but I've got some flexibility. Or, hey, I'm running late, this probably isn't going to be ready for another couple of weeks, dear editor, but what's your plan? Like, is that going to fit, or am I losing my spot, or what? Just have communication with people.
Right. Think of these all as long-term relationships, because if you have an editor you like and you're going to do multiple books, you want to make sure the relationship works for them, and they'll keep wanting to work with you. Same with beta readers and ARC readers, all that stuff. Those are relationships you're cultivating.
Yeah. So besides the relationship stuff, like after that part is happening and you're actually getting into the nitty-gritty part of the publishing tasks, some of those are research. So researching your book's market, you can do a K-lytics report. That's K-lytics.com. Alex Newton runs these reports. Then you can buy individual reports per genre, or you can go to the website and check it out. There are data reports, there's in niches, there's subcategories, there's bestseller lists that you can go through Amazon and look. I use Publisher Rocket to try to figure out keywords and categories that the book should be in.
That's what I use, and that's actually something that changes a lot. Especially if you're in the genres. There's terms that become relevant. There's they become more relevant. Terms that become less relevant depending on what's happening out in the world. Your book, if you're writing in science fiction, your book is in a really far down the line, it's affected by the thing that Disney's putting out. So those keywords, especially if you're doing something which seems, maybe if you're doing something that seems popular, that's becoming popular, if you're lucky enough to be writing a vampire book when vampires are becoming more relevant, trending, there you go, there's your word, you want to capitalize on that. Give the people what they want.
Knowing your market, doing a little bit of research there. And if I hope you're not designing your own cover.
Please don't. I've done this. It's a terrible idea.
So right now I am in communication with the cover project manager at the cover design. I'm doing 100covers.com. That's what I'm going through with this time. And because my original, I was using Paper and Sage, but they're not taking any new projects right now. So I had to ask around and find out who I should go see. So
did somebody recommend 100 covers?
Yeah, just people in my author community, in the author life community. There were a bunch of people that were doing that. And so I checked it out. And so I filled out you have to do some research in order to fill out the paperwork for the form for turning it in at 100 covers. So you have to come up with some categories, and you have to find covers that are in your genre in the bestseller list, a couple of them to send just for like inspiration for the designer, so they kind of know, and the book description, so you have to when you go in and say, okay, I want to hire a cover designer, then you realize that there's all this back data they need. So then you have to like pause and go back and figure out all this other stuff. Same with your ISBN. When you buy your ISBNs through Bowker, you have to, when you assign a number to a book, there's a huge list of a form that you have to fill out. And
Oh,
it
it's
takes
enormous. Yeah.
these are the things, everything takes so much longer than you think it's going to be. Oh, I can fill out this form in 15 minutes. Bam, bam, bam. Well,
Well,
actually,
and
it ends up
well,
being more
and
like
also,
an hour.
right, right. Let's talk about the importance of that creative brief when it comes to the cover, because one of the assumptions that I had, and I think a lot of authors have, is that the cover designer is going to read your book as a part of uh, designing your cover, and that's just not going to happen.
Oh yeah, no, I've never thought that.
I ran into this when I was doing just a little short story. I needed a cover for a short story that I was using as a giveaway, and so I thought, 4,000 words. What's 4,000 words? And the person like continued to make mistakes, and I kept asking them if well, you read the book, right? And finally they said, no, I didn't read the book. Okay, so even there, 4,000 short story, even if you're doing something for your reader magnet, do not assume that creative brief has to encapsulate your book like nothing else.
There's less expensive ways to get cover art done. If you're on a budget, you can get pre-made covers done, or they're done already and you're just picking from a gallery. There's different pricing tiers. And sometimes you can go to like istockphoto.com and like find the image that you want for your cover and buy that, like $12 or something like that, or 24, depending on what the rights situation is. And then give that to a cover designer and say, here, use this, and then give them the information. And then that's just as inexpensive as a pre-made usually, even though it's technically custom. So there's different options for less expensive cover art. So that all takes time, looking through the iStock photo page and such like that. And we talked about Bowker.com, the ISBNs, filling out that form. In fact, I ended up creating a worksheet for myself that would take all of the information that Bowker needs. And so I have it in a file folder now, like hard copy on my desk, because every time you need, when you're uploading, you need all that information again. And you need all this information multiple times. So even if you come up with it and you enter it into the form, then the next time you need it, you have to like redo all of that again. Right. So I found that it was useful to just have it hard copy on my desk. So I made that.
And again, here's another place. Well, two things I wanted to say. One is, do not underestimate the importance of a book cover. That saying that people don't judge books by the cover was never uttered by someone who tried to sell a book with a bad cover. Like it's absolutely vital that your cover is quality and it matches your genre and it's good. The other thing is, you can, just like with editors, I've used the same cover designers for like 4 books now. And I have the same project manager at the company. I have the same cover designer at the company. They know the books. They know this. They know what I'm doing. So it does give them something of a shorthand where they've done it before. Sometimes it's hard because they're in a different country. And when I say, I want it to feel like a gritty 70s Western cover, they'll say, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's not in their culture. But you can just have visual references for the culture, if that's what you're doing. And you can save money this way, because they give me a 10% discount on series covers, which over the course of time, if you're doing a lot of books, 10% goes a long way.
Yeah.
It pays for a promotion at Fussy Librarian.
There you go. Researching and finalizing your title is also important, and your subtitle, figuring out what is going to be good SEO,
For those
and
that don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. So essentially, your Amazon page is just a page on the internet with search terms, or more importantly, it's a page in the search engine that is Amazon with
mhm.
search terms. You want your book, let's say your book is one of the podcasts I listen to, the guy always says werebear, shapeshifter, mystery. But if that is your keyword, you want that to be in as many places in the title, subtitle, book description, because
Without
that all that,
keyword stuffing, because that's annoying and obvious.
but it's relevant. If the keyword is relevant, you don't want to,
Yes, if it's
you don't,
relevant.
you don't want to go find like synonyms for keywords if the keywords are relevant. Yeah, we don't keyword stuff over here. We don't do that, but we use it where it's relevant. You just want to
Yeah,
make sure it's everywhere.
yeah. And Publisher
Don't, I'm
Rocket
not a keyword
will
stuffer over here.
keyword or Publisher Rocket
Publisher
will
Rocket.
be able to help you validate your book idea, get more discoverability on Amazon, all of those things, and help you with keywords for ads too, if that's the route you're going. Even coming up with pricing is difficult sometimes. You can say, well, I know a standard trade paperback in the US is like $18 now, so that's what I'm going to price my book at. But then what are you going to do for your ebook? And once you come up with the US prices, then you have to come up with the prices for the other countries, because you can't just slide it over. If your
Right.
ebook is $4.99 in the US, then you need to round up for Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and you need to round down for the UK. If you're pricing it in euros, you go to the nearest 99 cent or 49 cent. So you have to
Right.
make it country appropriate, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Amazon seems to do some of that for you, but you always have to double check that kind of stuff, because the pricing of it, yeah, it's just, there's pricing tiers which relate to royalty tiers, which make a big difference if you're not careful.
I mean,
So,
think about if you go to Amazon, let's just say we're talking Amazon, and you see that the price is, I don't know, $18.62 for this book.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's a weird price for a book.
Right.
And it's going to make you stop. You're going to be like, what? And you almost, I mean, there's psychology behind it. Like, maybe you won't even buy the book because it's got a weird price. For some reason,
Right.
it'll just be off-putting. So even though Amazon will do that price,
The price matching.
not price matching, what I'm talking about, like they'll go through and come up with the
Oh,
Mexican
the
pesos price for
euro.
you,
Yeah.
and they'll do that, but you still have to go in and manually change it so that the last two numbers are the ones that are like 49 or 99, or you know what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other things
I've
you
never
need to
done
think
that, so I've
about, which
I've
I'm
I've got to
doing
do
right.
that.
I'm sorry.
I've got to do that. I've never really done that. I don't really, I guess I haven't really thought about international sales at this point, but yeah.
Other things to think about are the front and back matter, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm in the
Oh yeah.
formatting stage. So I finished all my edits and I sent it out to my book blurber, and also to Ali, since he has veto power. And the book's kind of, not about him, but he's in it. So I wanted him to be able to read it before I like actually published it. So in order to do that, I had to format it in vellum enough so that I could get it over to the people that would read it digitally. And you don't have to. I guess I could have just sent them Word docs, but it's harder to read that, and some people don't like to read on their computer. So I wanted to create an EPUB file. So the other things in the front and back matter are, like, if you are a patron of the podcast, then your name will go. There's a certain tier. If you're at that tier, then your name will go in the acknowledgments of my book. So I needed to go to Patreon, look up my patrons who's at this stage. Let me put them in the book. Which actually I just remembered I need to add one more name. If you want to put book club questions, if you want to put a sample chapter of your next book in the series, if you want to put a pre-order link for the next book, if you want notes from the authors, like there's all these extra things that you
Right.
might need to also write to put into the book.
Yeah.
And then
Which
what
are
do you do?
important. Which
They
are
are
important.
important. They are important. It
Yeah.
makes a book look like a book, for one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I have it. My cousin, who's a big reader, actually, he's the one who recommended Skippy to me. So I love him and hate him for reading that if he's listening. Um, he says he doesn't love a book, like he likes reading indie authors and he likes the variety and the eclectic nature of it, but he says oftentimes a lot of those indie authors will skip things like the foreword or the afterword or those things that just round a book out, and a lot of authors will skip that forward because it gets in the way of the preview part of Amazon, right? So that you don't want your only preview to be the foreword, which isn't really the story.
Yeah.
But see, like we lose a lot of the authenticity of a book by trying to play the Amazon game. So
I put that at the end.
yeah, put it at the end or do a print version with that, or you
Mm-hmm.
can do a lot of things. You have control.
Yeah.
They add steps, but
That stuffs. What do you do with your deleted scenes?
that's going to be a great question to have to answer here in the next couple of months, because I've just yanked out 3, 4, like at least 4 scenes are out. I have never done anything with them, but I'm to that place now, especially now that I'm engaging Patreon in the next couple of months. It's content. It's, hey, this could have. Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't figured that out. I may use them as incentives, just to give to people. So I don't know. What do you do?
I send them to my mailing list.
Hmm.
Just as cookies, Oh, I have this deleted scene. It's coming from the book that is coming
Interesting.
up, I'm not putting this in the book, so I'm giving it to you.
Now, would you do that if that? I guess it's a little different in a memoir since it's a delete. It's very different in a memoir than fiction. But for example, I have a scene right now. I cut it because I replay, like, it's a scene where 2 characters go to the scene of a crime, and instead of that scene, now I've replaced it with 2 different characters going. So this other scene will never exist, does not exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's written out of the fictional world. Would you use that scene because it's replaced by something better? It's not just excised from the storyline.
I don't know. It would depend on who I was giving it to, when I was giving it to them, and if it was, I mean, if you took it out and replaced it with something else because it wasn't good enough, then maybe not. The deleted scenes I've given mailing list before have been like those shoe leather scenes. Like it's a complete scene. It's beautiful. I loved it, but it doesn't actually carry the story forward. So it doesn't need to be there. It's just fluff. So I took it out. And
Okay.
those are the kinds that I send to the mailing list. So
It doesn't interrupt the story, it doesn't change the action, it just didn't fit the
yeah,
arc, the movement. Yeah.
it was a solo character doing a thing that didn't bring the story forward at all. Oh,
Hmm.
before I forget, this totally doesn't segue. You're the king of segues. This is not a good segue, but I did want to just mention before I forgot that some of the other things that need to be thought about are whether you're doing KDP Select or if you
Oh
are going
yeah.
to go wide. Do you want to do advanced reader copies, like a giveaway through library thing or something like that? So those are other just like hangers on. I didn't know, bits and bobs. I didn't know where to put that in the conversation, but I just wanted to
And I think that
not forget to say anything.
we could probably have a whole, maybe not a whole podcast on the whole KDP versus wide and the advantages of it. I know that that's coming up a lot. So you talked about Publisher Rocket. If you are not sure you want to invest $100, is it still $100 in Publisher Rocket? It was 100 when I bought it.
Yeah, 97, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the price might have gone up. If you're not ready to invest in Publisher Rocket, what you should invest in is Dave Chesson as a blogger and as a YouTuber, because he is really insightful on the analytics side of what works, what keywords work, how to do it, how to avoid keyword stuffing, how to avoid under keywording. And one of the things he talked about is there really an advantage to Kindle Unlimited anymore? Is it really, does going wide now, is it more profitable and advantageous than the advantages that the KU world give you? And So these are the things, like, so get into Dave Chesson. He'll help you make that decision.
Cool.
Are you a KU person? Do you subscribe?
No, I did when I put out my first novel, I did KDP Select for the first 2 rounds, so like 180 days because it goes
Mm-hmm.
90 days at a time. And then I decided that I wanted to put that novel out as a on my website in order
Okay.
to get in the mailing list that they got the free book. And if
Okay.
you're in KDP Select, you can't have it anywhere else digitally. So
Right.
I pulled it out of KU.
And if you think you can fluff that, you can't, because they will. I have made that mistake, just an oversight on my part, and they have come to me and said,
you can't have this here, take it down.
yeah, take it down.
Other nitty-gritty things to think about, which I am right in the middle of again, are
This is the
the
long author update.
long author updates. Updating author pages. So this you kind of have to do. These are things I do while it's away at the editor. And now that I've got it back from the editor, now I'm like, oh no, I have all this stuff I have to
Right.
do that I didn't get done while it was at the editors. So, updating your author page is good for branding and discoverability. It's good for web presence. So it's really important for you to do that. And it gives you a chance to point readers to, the reader magnet you have, or just maybe it's just name recognition, but it's not just your website. It's, Amazon Author Central, but even if you are doing KDP Select, and that's the only place you're going to be selling your book, there are other places where you have an author presence for free that it just makes so much sense to go in and update. And those are places like Goodreads or Library
BookBub.
Thing, LinkedIn. Facebook used to have an author app. I don't know if they still do or not, but your Facebook
I don't
page,
know. Yeah.
BookBub, you don't have to, BookBub definitely, and they have a really nice one too. It's easy to use, and I really like it. Instagram, of course. IndieBound, you can get an author page up on IndieBound. Any place, if you are going wide, then any other place that you would be selling your books. Powell's in Oregon, Barnes and Noble, like through Nook Press, and so there's all those places that maybe you're not thinking of that you have to go in and update and make sure that the bio is current and that you've got a current photo and that all the links are working and all of that stuff.
And some of those things I've found with Goodreads, you have to do that yourself. Otherwise, people will do it for you. Like I had somebody, one of my beta readers, no, one of my ARC readers, I'm sorry, go in and review a book that I hadn't put on Goodreads yet. And I don't know how they did that. I don't know enough about how that works, but they just reviewed a book. And then when I went to put the book on Goodreads, I had reviews of it here and I had the book that I had put here. And so I had to really work with them to like meld the two so that all the reviews were on the right listing. So again, timing, the sooner the better. So those things don't happen, because the fix takes as much time as the actual, taking the step.
And then I think to finish out the conversation, maybe we can touch a little bit on the social media aspect of self-publishing, or any publishing actually, and that's just the marketing piece, how do you want to tell your mailing list first, maybe about your book that's kind of coming out, or, do you want to do a cover reveal on Instagram? There's other bits and bobs too. So books to read, too, is the numeral, bookstoread.com. You can get universal links for your book. And so that might be a great way to blast it out on social media is to go into bookstoread.com and create a universal book link for your book. And then you can put it up everywhere.
If we're talking about time-saving universal links, I am a big advocate for Linktree. If you don't use Linktree, you should. It is, the link stays the same, but you as the user change what the link goes to. So like right now I have get my book, get this free book, join my mailing list, read my blog. That's what's on there. When I start running my Patreon page, which will be in the next month and a half or so, I will simply add that to the link tree. Find me on Patreon. I don't need to go and update everything in the world that says with me. Everything has the Linktree link. Now there is some, crowding because Linktree doesn't offer like a huge menu of things,
Right.
but so you have to be, decisive, but it's still a way to create some evergreen links in your world that you don't have to change every single time.
Yeah. And when you're making your social media graphics, you can go to canva.com, which is kind of
Love
the
Canva. It's
standard
free,
now.
people.
It's free.
For now, I guess.
Yeah, for now. You can put quotes of the characters on there. You can put your book cover on there, or maybe like the description. You can do promo deals on there. You can create flyers for like launch day announcements, or if you're having any literary events or a book signing thing or a launch party, you can make up a flyer for that on Canva. So that's cool.
And Canva is fantastic because it's like you have to have some graphic design skill, but one of the things it does is it gives you the template. So if you're doing a Facebook post, you go to find the Facebook post template, it sizes it perfectly for you. So you don't have to, because some of these platforms, like they want the image to be X by Y size, and if you're not in there, it's not going to take it, and that's frustrating.
Here's a pro tip. So
here we go.
Canva is free, but I pay for the pro service, which is like $12 a month or something. And they do all the resizing. So if you create a post, if you create like a YouTube banner or something,
right,
and in the image and the font and all the stuff, and you do that, and now you want to make it, I don't know, an Instagram square or something like that. You just click it and it totally just does it for you. You might have to tweak it
take my money, take my money, take my money.
You might have to tweak it a tiny bit, because sometimes, like if you've got a lot of words that are, on the banner out here, and then it gets cut off. So you might have to tweak it a little bit to make it look the way you want to, but pretty much it just does everything for you. So yay. Best $12.
Do you have an affiliate link? Are you getting a kickback?
I don't.
That drives me nuts, the resizing of things, because but all right, now another $12 out a month.
All right. Well, we just were busy talking and I didn't take any show notes. So I'll have to come up with, I'll put the links to like Canva and myidentifiers.com. That's for the Bowker if you want to buy ISBNs. And so, yeah, there is a lot of little nitty gritties, and we just sort of skimmed quickly over the top of it. But
right. And I think as we talked before this, we had a little, we always huddle up a little bit before to talk about it. We could probably go on for multiple episodes. There's a lot more, and I'm sure that even a year from now, when we're doing this again, when we're both publishing a new book, some of these things will change. It's an evolving landscape, but this is a great starter for mentality, especially the timing stuff, right? You really can't expect to finish a book on one day and have it out 2 weeks later if you want it to be quality and reach readers. That's the caveat. You could just shove it out there, but you're not going to get anywhere.
And some of these things, are ongoing and post-launch. You can do some of these things post-launch, but if you want to have a big launch, then you've got to like line up the ad stacking, and you've got to think about your launch plan. And, sometimes that starts a few months before the book is launched, so you can gear up and get people excited about it and let people know about it. So yeah, there's a lot of thought and planning that goes into this stuff too.
Yeah. And I'm, you're in the midst of it, and I'm with this book now coming where it is. And I'm about to start thinking about how I'm going to use, because then you have to also consider in the timing of it, like if it's a book in a series, let's say it's book 3 or 4, how do you use the previous books in the series to launch the new book? How do you incorporate that? How do you add a sale on book one. Oh,
Can you get a book bub on book one? And
can you get a book? Yeah, that seems like the biggest question
the
ever,
holy
right? If you get
grail.
that featured deal, you've made it. Or
All
not.
right. Well, next week we're going to be talking about gratitude since
Oh,
it's the week of Thanksgiving in the
okay.
US. So gratitude for the author life. All
Oh,
of
like
the
what we're grateful for about the author
yeah.
life. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that would be a nice little
That'll I
counterpart
have a
to
lot
the
to say about that.
mania of nitty-gritties.
I have a lot to say about it. It's funny, it's the day before Thanksgiving. If we had the
Right?
conversation the day after Thanksgiving, I'd probably feel a lot different about what I'm grateful for in the author life. Because I'll go see family that haven't read my books. Just kidding.
Well, thanks for talking with me today,
Oh,
Eric.
thank you.
And
Had a great
if you've
week.
got any questions about self-publishing, or if you want more information about something that we specifically talked about in brief, quantity, then feel free to shoot us an email, writercraftpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Talk to you
See you next
soon.
week. Bye.
Bye-bye.